The movie starts off somewhere in a snowy region, on the waters of a frozen pond. The main protagonist and spirit of winter, Jack Frost, emerges from under the sheet of ice covering the pond. He awakens from a slumber without any memory of his past or the reason for his existence. He later discovers that he can turn things into ice with his magical staff, but more interestingly, he can fly. Though he needs to have a lot of practice. From afar, he spots a village in the middle of the snowy forest. There, he tries to start a conversation with the villagers, but no one pays attention. When he attempts to talk with a child, it walks straight into him as if he wasn't there. No one can see or hear him. With amnesia, the only thing he knows about himself is his name, which the moon has told him so. After 300 years, Jack Frost enjoys being the spirit of winter who brings a fun snow day to children. However, at the end of the day, the children don't know him, nor even believe in him. His name only becomes part of an expression of feeling cold in winter. At the North Pole, Nicholas North receives a report from the Yeti that the lights of the world are slowly fading. He discovers that Pitch Black, also known as Boogaman, plans to frighten the children with nightmares. He immediately calls for the meeting of the Guardians, Toothiana, the Tooth Fairy and the Guardian of Memories, Sandy, the Sandman and the Guardian of Dream, and Easter Bunamund, the Easter Bunny and the Guardian of Hope. Upon their arrival, Nicholas informs the others that Pitch Black went to the North Pole in the form of dark clouds and shadows. The Guardians don't believe him at first, but the man in the moon confirms that it was Pitch Black and later shows them the newly chosen Guardian, Jack Frost. Much to their disappointment. For Bunny, Jack Frost is a menace whose hobby is to freeze water parks and mess with his job. One night, Jack Frost visits the house of a child named Jamie whom he used to play. On his way home, which is the pond where he first awakens, he sees something move in the shadows. When goes into check, Bunny appears and diverts his attention before the Yetis grab him and put him in a sack. The Yetis open a portal and bring him to the North Pole before Nicholas and the other Guardians who later inform him that he is now part of them. Jack Frost declines. Nicholas explains that the man in moon is the one who chose Jack Frost because of Pitch Black, who threatens the Guardians, but also threatens the children who believe in them. Frustrated that the moon has not told him what he is after so many years, Jack refuses to accept the responsibilities of being a guardian. All he wants to do is give children a snow day and lots of fun, and later argues with Bunny. Before the argument further escalates, Nicholas tours Jack around the North Pole where hundreds of Yetis and Christmas elves prepare presents for children on Christmas Day. He brings Jack Frost inside his office and shows a Matryoshka doll of himself. He explains that inside him there is a center of wonders which he is a guardian of. He tells Jack Frost that the man in moon must have seen something inside of him that makes him worthy to be a guardian, and Jack must figure out what it is. Their conversation gets interrupted when Bunny arrives with news that something bad happened in the Tooth Palace. Nicholas, Jack, Bunny, and Sandy ride the sleigh to the Tooth Palace. On their way, they come across thousands of Pitch Black's nightmares coming from the palace. Jack notices that the nightmares are taking the Tooth Fairies. Inside the palace, they discover that the rest of the fairies and the children's teeth have been taken. The Guardians try to console Tooth when suddenly, Pitch Black appears. He explains the reason for his actions, to get what the Guardians have, to be believed in. Tooth tries to attack Pitch, but one of his nightmares appears. It was made of the same sand as Sandman's dreams but in black color. Pitch reveals that he can turn Sandman's dreams into nightmares, which took some time for him to learn. He reminisces about the time during the Dark Ages when people still recognize him as the one who brings fear. But because of the man in the moon and the Guardians, Pitch slowly loses the people's belief in him. Now that he's back, he plans to weaken the children's belief in the Guardians. And when the children don't believe anymore, everything the Guardians protect, wonders, hopes, and dreams, will soon disappear, including the Guardians themselves. There will be no Christmas, no Easter eggs, and only fear and nightmares remain. When Pitch Black flees, Tooth explains to Jack that every tooth they keep holds memories from a person's childhood, including Jack's. Jack celebrates as he will finally get his memories back. However, since Pitch Black has stolen the teeth and Tooth's powers slowly start to weaken, they must first gather the remaining teeth. The Guardians start to collect the teeth from all over the world and exchange them for treats and coins. They stop over at Jamie's bedroom and start to compare the sack of teeth they have collected. The commotion awakens the boy. Because Jamie still believes in the Guardians, he can see them, except for Jack. Sandy attempts to put Jamie to sleep, but Jack triggers the alarm clock which causes Jamie's dog to chase Bunny. Sandman's power bounces around the room and puts Tooth, Nicholas, and Bunny to sleep. In the end, he manages to put Jamie back to sleep. Suddenly, Jack sees the nightmares and urges Sandman to chase them down together. A moment later, Jamie's sister Sophie enters the room and finds one of Nicholas's globe portals. She triggers a portal and goes inside. Just then, Nicholas wakes up. Meanwhile, Jack and Sandy chase the nightmares. Sandy manages to revert one into a dream and Jack captures the other, but they parted ways in the process. When Jack calls upon Sandy, Pitch Black appears and tries to stop Jack from helping the Guardians. Jack mentions the teeth and Sandy appears. A fight between Sandy and Pitch ensues. Pitch summons all the nightmares which surround Jack and Sandy. When he orders them to attack, the rest of the Guardians arrive and join the fight. Pitch's target was Sandy all along. The nightmares crowd over Sandy and distract him, which gives a chance for Pitch to attack. He launches an arrow and hits Sandy, who begins to turn into nightmares and disappears. The Guardians return to the North Pole and offer a ceremony for their friend, Sandy. The next morning, they notice that the lights representing the children around the globe start to dim. To get the lights flickering again, they go to Warren to deliver the eggs in time for Easter. There, they find Sophie, who later helps them in painting the eggs. After everything is ready to be delivered through the tunnels, Sophie falls asleep in Bunny's arms. Jack volunteers to take Sophie home, but the Guardians worry that Jack might also be taken by Pitch. He assures them he will be quick and brings Sophie home. The baby tooth fairy accompanies him. When Jack was about to head back, he heard a familiar voice calling his name. He follows the voice and finds a broken bed frame in the middle of the woods. The baby tooth fairy tries to stop Jack, but he insists. The voice is coming from the bed frame. Jack finds a deep hole underneath the bed frame and dives into it. Inside, he finds hundreds of cages where the tooth fairies are kept. He is in Pitch's lair. The voice calls upon his name again from the pile of the children's memories. Jack jumps down and tries to find where the voice is coming from. Suddenly, Pitch appears and taunts Jack about his memories and the children's non-belief in him. Pitch hands over Jack's memory and warns Jack about something he did before disappearing into the shadows. Turns out, Jack gives Pitch enough time to break the eggs for the Easter egg hunt, which results in the children not believing in Bunny. Bunny tries to offer the remaining eggs to the children, but they cannot see him anymore. Jack tries to approach Bunny. Nicholas and Tooth arrive and inform him that Pitch's nightmares destroy every basket of eggs, and none make it to the surface. Tooth sees Jack holding his memory box and discovers that during those times, Jack was with Pitch. Bunny berates him and says that Jack shouldn't be part of the Guardians. The rest of the Guardians have completely lost their trust in him. Jack flies to Antarctica and isolates himself. Pitch appears and tries to taunt him with the idea of the children finally believing in him. He wants Jack to side with him and rule the world together. When Jack refuses, Pitch threatens to end the life of the baby tooth fairy unless he hands over his magical staff, the source of his power. Jack gives the staff, but Pitch still refuses to free the baby tooth fairy, who pecks at Pitch's fingers and breaks free. Pitch throws the baby tooth fairy on an ice wall and down to the chasm before breaking Jack's staff. He then throws Jack into the chasm as well and drops the broken staff. Jack starts to lose hope, but he suddenly hears the familiar girl's voice from his memory box. He unlocks his memories and discovers that he is a mortal teenager living with his younger sister and mother. One day, he takes his sister outside to play, but they end up in the middle of a frozen pond. The ice starts to crack beneath their feet. Jack was able to save his sister using his staff, but ended up falling into the pond and drowning. After finally knowing the truth, Jack realizes the reason why he was chosen as a guardian. He fixes his broken staff and returns to the lair to rescue the kidnapped tooth fairies. He opens up the cages but figures out the tooth fairies cannot fly now that the children don't believe in them anymore. Jack checks the globe and sees all the light slowly disappears. But there is one left, Jamie. Jack visits Jamie, who is currently talking to a bunny stuffed toy, telling it to prove that the Easter bunny is real. Jamie asks for any sign and Jack enters his room, draws an Easter egg, and makes a snow Easter bunny. The bunny turns into snow inside Jamie's room and Jamie remembers Jack Frost. As he believes, he starts to hear and see Jack, making Jamie the first ever person to ever believe in him. Just then, the other Guardians arrive whose powers are weakened. Bunny turns into a small bunny due to the effects of Easter. Jack leads Jamie outside where he meets the Guardians. Pitch arrives to dim the last light, Jamie. Jack tries to fight, but Pitch is much stronger. As Pitch corners them with the nightmares, Jamie tells Jack he is scared. Jack suddenly remembers his sister and realizes that his center is fun, which he uses to gather all of Jamie's friends who also start to believe in him. The children join in the fun and realize that the Guardians are all real. Pitch gathers all the nightmares and threatens to attack, saying that the children cannot protect them. Jamie bravely steps up, and so does the rest of the children. Pitch orders the nightmares to attack, but the children's dreams are stronger than his. The nightmares instantly turn into dreams, bringing back Tooth, Nicholas, and Bunny's powers. The Guardians summon their apprentices who help deal with the nightmares while they team up to fight Pitch. However, their combined powers are still not enough to completely stop Pitch. When Pitch attempts to attack Jack from behind, a dream trail suddenly grabs Pitch and drags him near a dream tornado. Sandy resurrects and defeats Pitch by putting him asleep with dreams. Sandy flies above the sky and brings back the children's dreams, which rekindles the lights from all over the world. The Tooth Fairies also regain their ability to fly. Meanwhile, Pitch wakes up and sees the Guardians and the children having fun in his presence. He rages and attempts to harm the children, but they cannot see him anymore. In fear, Pitch starts to run away, but the Guardians catch up. When the Guardians confront him, he says that the children will still believe in fear as the nightmares are still there, but it is his own fear that they are after him. The nightmares attack and drag him into the underworld. Afterward, Nicholas ordains Jack Frost and announces his official place among the Guardians as the Guardian of Fun. After the celebration, the Guardians bid farewell to the children and return to the North Pole aboard the sleigh.